Okay, yep, there we go. That might have fixed everything. Whew. Alright. Okay, there we go. Now we're live. There we go. Alright. There we go. We'll give a few minutes just for people to wander in before we start with everything. Alright. Boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Alright. No drop frames. Awesome. Beautiful. Probably had to update the drivers what needed to be done. But you know how things are. Alright, so for those who are just wondering and such, what today is going to be a tier list of rating the games I played for Inktober, as well as giving chatting about them, dissecting a bit, as well as answering questions. And actually, let me make a pinned message about that. I'm gonna pin that so people know. Yeah, mainly M pin after in the street. All right. Now I have to also clear out the all the Twitch updates and everything that's gonna pop up. But here we go. So I have the tiers list from S to D. S obviously being like a perfect game, D being it was complete trash, and then kind of like B being that middle ground. A might be like it's a great game, but there's some stuff that I'm like, you know what, does not make it perfect. C for the stuff like, hey, it's not a terrible game. There are some things I liked, but definitely more cons than pros. So it's kind of like what you see is like, hey, how do you feel about this? Strong agree, neutral disagree, strong disagree, kind of like that kind of stuff. And with it there being 31 games, gives us plenty to talk about. I mean, these games range anywhere from like a couple minutes to like hours. Not, I mean, not hours, but like over an hour. I think only one game actually went over that. The rest tend to be around like the 15-minute frame, I would say, because there were some that were like at 30 minutes, and there were some that were like 5 minutes, but some like quite a few were like in that 15 to 30. So like that, like these were all like for the most part bite-sized games. Um, some of them better than others, obviously. Um, yes, yeah, he's back. I am. Some of these games also were just clearly better than others. Some really matched the theme I was going for. Some, like, there was like one or two I actually like eyed a few times, like, I should play this, I should play this. And I'm like, you know what, this gives me an excuse now to play them. And these are not in order, by the way. These are not like day one, day two, day three. It pretty much like shuffled them themselves. I think it went by like the name of the image, how the image was saved, because like I know for a fact like this is day two right here, but it's like halfway through the list. So, so we'll go through like that. The first one was Last Train Home. Last Train Home was a interesting one. It was a short game. It was only like I think like 7 minutes. It really was just a simple like fetch quest. If you ever played any type of like RPG, or even like puzzle games, there's a fetch quest. You take this item to this one person who gives you an item that goes to the next person, and it's like a 5-6 step of like setting this item down the road. Like you get item, they give you a new item, you get that new item to someone else, which was pretty much Last Train Home. Was like getting a newspaper, giving it to a guy who needed the newspaper, who gave you a lighter, who you gave the lighter to a guy that was smoking, who told you, hey, go get the medicine from this one kid to give to the person who's sick. And that was like that was pretty much like 60 to 70% of the game. The whole game was pretty much I'm pretty sure you're on a train to the afterlife and you're not supposed to be there. For the most part, it was fine for what it was. It was short. It was sweet. Um, they had a whole scene where like you're entering cars and more spider webs appeared, and there was a spider monster. Like you entered a train and this door was stuck as a spider in the shadows was approaching you before you were able to make it through. I wish they did something with the spider. There was no warning. It was just there to, I think, to make things really tense. But it did not. I thought it was a nice idea, but didn't really give you much to go off of. I would give this solid. I think. Yep, I got it back. I updated all my drivers and now everything is fine. I think that's what it was because unfortunately, um, some of my drivers were just like I think that was the problem was that they were not updated for a while. So once I updated drivers, everything seemed fine. Like so, I just assumed that's the problem because like I played it again when no one else was on the internet when everyone else was asleep with Sparking Zero, and things are off. So I think that might have been just I need to update my drivers. But I would say Last Train Home was a solid C. It was not because it's a terrible game. It's just the one scare just didn't make sense. It was short, sweet. There was nothing really to write home about the characters other than like they were there for like a fetch quest. It was a nice for what it was. Quick bite-sized game. Not really scary either. There was like no jump scares other than like that spider scene I talked about. Even then, you don't even see the spider. You just see the shadow of a spider. Next is Egg Fried Rice. So Egg Fried Rice was a joke horror game. And there's another one on this list, which is, of course, the Boiled Noodles at Night. Hello, Sister Nix. Is that a nod? Yep. Egg Fried Rice was actually not bad. I mean, it was a joke game. It's really upfront about it. You're gonna go get egg fried rice from down the road in town, so because you're hungry at night. It's not a complicated story, though. I think this is where it differs from the other game on the list that was much like this. Boiled Noodles at Night was very lazy, where egg fried rice actually had multiple steps to it. Um, Thank you for the heart. I shall send one back. Where is it? There it is. Um, it was fun. I mean, when we grabbed our egg fried rice and was driving back in town, it being thrown into the windshield and suddenly destroying the windshield, caught me off guard. It gave me a slight scare. Um, it was good. It was fun. The storytelling was kind of silly, of course. Like you go into town, get egg fried rice. Um, you go to go get your wallet. You come back, someone stole your order. You have to wait for another order. You drive back home. You get a call saying you left your soda, your free beer. It was your free beer at the shop, and you decide to go back for it. And I was like, you know what? That's a trap. I'm gonna not do it. Apparently, the game has like a few endings. It's like 4 different endings, and it was actually not bad. It was funny. It was silly. It actually had a solid jump scare, as well as decent writing, but at the same time, it was not really. It was. I don't know if I would say it's better than Last Train Home. It's kind of like that BC. I think for now I'll put into B unless like B gets overfilled and I might be like, okay, it's time to promote some games, time to demote some games. But so far, Egg Fried Rice, I'll give it a solid B. It was one of the games where I like when I first played, I was like, this is gonna be terrible. And as the month went on, I'm like, you know what? This is kind of in the better upper half of games. As weird as a silly horror game might be, sometimes if you can pull the comedy off right, it it's great. It's hard to pull off comedy and horror at the same time, and Egg Fried Rice actually did it right well. Cleany's Service was a very interesting game. Cleaning Service is very simple. You're hired to go clean the windows of this mansion. You clean the windows that are full of grime and blood, and as you clean the windows, you can see what's going on the other side. And I love this. It was great. It was great. The whole idea is this family hires you, you're cleaning the windows, and as you get like a part way into it, you can see someone's like sneaking around. You lost your keys and you know someone breaks in through a window that you already cleaned, and you can see that there's this serial killer that has entered the house and is going after people. You can see him like killing people off as you're cleaning the windows, and it becomes very apparent that like, oh my god, are we watching this massacre happen? As even at one point, the serial killer who's hiding gives you the the shushing as they're about to go into like what looks like a birthday party. But then it throws a complete curveball at you, you know, because you get near the top where like the attic window, and suddenly a guy bursts through, grabs you and yanks you in, and for a ritual, and it turns out that it was all like a plot to fake this murder, so you have to clean the windows to kill you. So everything that you saw, like all those murders, was just fake outs to lure you in so they can make you the sacrifice for their plan. And you actually see in like the credits as they're like putting new blood on the windows, new grime to lure another cleaning service in. It was fun. The jump scare at the end really got me. A really unique story because I was like, oh, we're totally gonna die to the killer, right? Yeah, we did die to the killer, but the mastermind behind everything. It was good. I was really surprised by it. I think the only real criticism I had of it was just at times when cleaning the windows, if there was like a little speck that you missed that you can't see, it won't let you finish the window. Like you have to finish cleaning the window before you can move on to the next one. Like you can't move on to next windows independently. You have to finish the window, then it'll move you. So there was times where I'm like cleaning the window 2 or 3 times, trying to figure out where that one tiny speck I missed to continue playing the game. And that like really grinded my gears a bit, but it was a fun game. Like cleaning services is one that I would definitely recommend just for that, like watching as the fake murders happen as you're cleaning the windows. Kind of like it almost feels like, that's not my job. I don't get paid to report crimes. So I would say it's a solid A. Um this next game is going to be very, very controversial. Um, make sure it's closed. It's literally like a 2-minute game. When I say like bite-sized horror, it is literally a bite-sized horror game. Like some of these games go up to an hour, and those like qualify, I would say, as bite-sized games. I think anything that requires more than a single stream to beat or more than a single setting is like a bite-sized horror game. And this is like a bite. I would say it's not even a nibble because it takes 2 minutes to beat. That's all, really. And it was my shortest game of the Inktober. All it is, make sure it's closed, is you arrived home, you're trying to close the garage doors, but it's motion censored, and it won't close because it senses something, which turns out to be the killer. There's no real scare. You don't even your character doesn't even try running away as he's closing the garage door. It's like it's just a 2-minute game that is just trying to give you one single jump scare, and not even that because the monster like walks towards you slowly, and I'm thinking to myself like, hey, how slow this monster's walking, I could just run to the other side of the car. Like it's I don't want to even say it's bad, but it's kind of bad in the sense that it's so tiny, doesn't make sense. Like, as weird as it sounds, like for horror games, I want there to be some logic, even like if like mangas, animes, horror games, sci-fi novels. If you give me a logic in that world, I will understand. I will be like, okay, makes sense. But for us to like try to close the garage door and not even try to run away or comment that a monster's entering the garage that we can fully see, it's just like it's trying to scare the player, but just really falls flat. I will say this has to be our first D game. So far, of the 4 games, it's all different rankings so far. No S's, but that's probably going to change really soon because I already know, like, when I first made this, like, tier list, I was like, there's going to be at least 2 or 3 S tier games. I was that confident. I'm taking a sip. Next one is Dollmare. Dollmare is a demo of a full horror game. There's a few on here that are just demos to games that are coming out. I know, for example, Dollmare is a demo. Security Booth has a full version of the game. Sheepy's a demo of a full game. Lidar Exploration is a demo, for example. They're all like demos to full games. But I still gave them a try because I'm like, you know what? It looks very interesting. I almost want to say Dollmare is a mascot horror in a way. Kinda, yes, kinda, no. Dollmare is you're a new worker at a doll testing factory. You're testing the dolls to make sure they're good to send off, for shipping and everything like that. And we get like the first 2.5 days of this game. And with those 2.5 days, a lot of things happen. The one thing that the game prized itself was each playthrough is its own unique thing. Certain jump scares, certain events are unique to each playthrough, and you're not going to get the same ones each time or in the same order each time. And I was just surprised because I played the demo version, and then I played the full game on stream, and each of those different playthroughs had unique things happen in each of them, including the demo. Stuff happened in the demo that didn't happen in the game, and vice versa, which I thought was very interesting. Like automatically, that like ticked off like a huge check. Like, if you can give me a game where unique things can actually happen each playthrough, and not just like one or two different things, but like a good dozen. Like in the one game, like the one playthrough, well, two of the three playthroughs, I had the girl from Ring as a doll popping through my TV screen. I had different ghost dolls haunting me. My last playthrough, I had a doll that appeared with a flaming head that suddenly lit on fire. Like each playthrough had its own unique thing that was just really thing. And I'm trying hard not to give some criticism to the game, because one or two of the criticisms I have was only in the full game and not the demo. So like I'm trying to decide like, oh, that doesn't count technically. But yeah, it was really unique. I mean, there is certain things that I wish that like a lot of horror games do, where the main character just doesn't seem to react to things like, for example, I love Indigo Park. I I love like Five Nights at Freddy's and like stuff like that. Um, ha- uh, Garden of Bam Bam is another one that like they all follow this, where your character doesn't really comment anything or really talk. So all these weird things are happening. We are leaving like these sticky notes. Oh no, we're not leaving the sticky notes. Someone else is. But like our character doesn't really comment unless at the end of the day where he's like, I feel like I need to go back to the factory. But like all these weird stuff is literally happening. You're picking up a doll that's floating, that unexplained. You have one that has a beating heart in it. You have one that has a flaming head. Like all these things are happening, and you're not commenting how freaking spooky this is. Like, I wish there was some logic to that, but it's just a small gripe. I like having characters that talk, as weird as it sounds. I know some people don't like having character that talks. Like, you can immerse yourself much better that way, but like, give me something to show that our character is like spooked to be there instead of stoic, stone faced about it. Um, but everything was great. The random events that happen, the gameplay itself is simple. You're checking to see it doesn't say anything weird. You're looking for any broken parts. You're X-raying it for certain things that are missing. In the full game, you're checking to make sure there's no like paint on it that you can see via UV light. Everything about it was just really good. I think this is like quite easily S tier. Like it was good enough for me to see that the full game released a couple days before I played this, and I was like, you know what? We're playing the full game on stream. Dollmare is easily an S. It was so fun, so fun. I think we're gonna start getting to a few games now where it's like this is gonna be hard. This is gonna be hard to like grade them off of. Um, the walk home. I I don't know how I am going to grade this one. The long walk home is a good, fun game. But at the time, there's a lot of bad things about it. The whole idea is you break down and you're going to go to your buddy's house that's in the next town over. But the two or three people you talk to, they all claim that no one has been on to the other, the edge of town. There's nothing there. And it's like, okay, weird. What do you mean there's nothing there? They're like, there's nothing there. I'm like, is it a blank wasteland? Is it a forest? Is it a dead end to like the side of a mountain? Like, give me something that tells me like what is there at the end of the road. Like, are we in purgatory? Maybe that's why there's nothing there. Dolmare was neat to watch too. Dolmare was a fun game, and it's a game I recommend to even someone who has watched it. Try yourself and find something that happened to you that didn't happen to the person you watched. Like, it's a game I actually recommend because, for that reason, you can find stuff that's still hidden. I saw a video on YouTube because of course I uploaded Dolmare one, so like I got recommendations, and they had like they did they broke the game and like data mined it to get every little thing that will happen. It's like 3 hours worth of like different little effects that can happen. Like, that's amazing. That there's that many things to it, so it's worth a playthrough. But yes, the long walk. So I wish they'd give me something which they're like, okay, what's at the end of your town? Like, what's going on here? But I will say, one of the best jump scares in the whole Inktober happened in that game. Like, there was one just like coming out of the store and a ghost just appeared. One walking across the screen. Like, it was like really good jump scares that I loved. I was like, okay, this is great. I'm hooked. You got me on the edge of my seat here. Let's go. Then it swerves once or twice. The one that swerves is your flashlight goes out, and you're like, okay, I need a light source. You see a video camera in someone's car. Decide to break open their car to steal the video camera so you can see through the night vision on it. And I'm like, why? That's your logic here, is that you're going to walk to the next town and steal someone's video camera to a house you're probably not going to remember the next day. Like, I was like, okay, really? And then sadly, they don't use the night vision for long. It's only for like 1 or 2 minutes. And I'm like, seriously? That's a waste of a feature. Like, I know night vision makes things more scary, but when you don't use that from the beginning or really use it for long, it kind of loses its meaning as a gimmick, a silly gimmick. Which is a shame, because I really enjoyed the scares that happened in the game. And then the ending just ends on a sudden note. And a lot of horror games are victims and offenders of this, where they just end very suddenly. You're walking through the road, you see a woman just standing there at the end, and you're like, oh my god, there's something wrong with her. And then the car drives by you and hits the woman, saving you from her. And the driver is the blind man from the beginning of the game that our character just sees. And I'm like, the blind man drove the car to hit the lady that's possessed to save us. And I'm like, how did he know how to drive, where he was going, how to hit the lady? It kind of all just like, your logic is not processing here. Your logic does not make sense. This is... It felt like you were... It honestly felt like a roller coaster effect. It was building up, building up, building up. We get to the top of the hill and comes crashing down to the bottom. Like, all my fear became confusion and then almost anger. I was like, really? That's it? That's all? And then the game did say it was a demo, but you end your demo in a way like that took all the urge for me to play a full game if a full game did come out. And that's something a lot of people have to realize, is that have people test your game to make sure it gives the impact that you want. Otherwise, you know, it's not going to go anywhere. You're not going to have people want to come and play that full game. And honestly, that's how I felt. Now, this is a hard grading because, on one hand, I had one of my favorite jump scares in the whole Inktober series, right? On the other hand, there was so many cons that I'm looking at this like it does not feel worth it. I think as of right now, we're going to put it the top of D. Like, if there's a lot of D's, we might boost it up to a C. But I think, honestly, right now, compared, like, to a game that only had one or two complaints of it, versus a game that had, like, maybe one complaint, to games that I don't really have complaints for, that I think that just shows, like, hey, your cons are outweighing the pros here, buddy. Like, this is not working. For the next one is a very, I don't even want to say, you know what, I'll say it's a unique game. Creature Packets. Creature Packets is a game where you fuse packets of creatures to make new creatures to make a terrarium for people. It's not really, I guess the horror in it is wondering what are you making these terrariums for. You're also crushing bugs as well. You're using like different bugs to make animals and things like that. I mean, also, one of the bugs that we had to put in terrariums is tarantulas, and that like put us like a shiver down my spine. It was a unique concept. You would start with one bug, and then as you fuse the two of the same bug together, it creates a new one. Then if you fuse that one in the first one, it creates a third one. And then as you fuse more of these things together, it makes more and more creatures. Then you you pretty much create those creatures and put them into terrarium. It was a neat little thing, but it did become a little tedious because you have the way you get these packets is by tapping them into a vending machine. So you would have to like type 114 then 115 twice to make that those two 150s into 116. It just became a going back and forth typing a lot of times. Like I would just be like, okay, I need these three creatures and two of these fuse into another one. Okay, I'm just gonna type these all out at once and then bring them over one by one to fuse them. It didn't bother me at first, but once you get to like the sixth terrarium, you're just like, oh, I have to type out another set of long numbers. So there was nothing wrong with it. It was a good experience. It was a unique experience. I don't think I've ever saw something like Creature Packets where I had to fuse a bunch of different bugs together to create new ones. But it felt like a tedious game. Hello, Lori. It really felt like a tedious game. And I don't know how I feel about that. I think I would put this in C. I don't think it's a terrible game, but it felt like a tedious game. And I think that's just a clear difference between the two, because a game that's tedious, I won't find as bad as a game that's just terrible. But if I had to pick between these two, I feel like, because I don't have a true complaint for Creature Packets, it's going to be better than the game that had a good jump scare and me having a lot of problems with it, which I think is completely fair about the game. Also, because we are now 7 games deep as well, so we're technically like a quarter of the way through. If you ever have any questions about any of the games I've said so far, I do have that pinned. Feel free to ask. I will answer any questions like this. Life is full of TD already. We don't need in games. Very fair. So next is Security Booth. Security Booth is... I love games that are like... You have to check IDs to make sure they're the person they say they are. Their stuff is legit. Like the games like Paper Please. I love games like those. I don't know what it is. I love games where I have to like check paperwork and make sure someone is who they say they are. it's just very fun for me. I don't know why it is. But security booth is very much similar to that. Pretty much cars arrive, you check their license plate, and you allow them to the facility if they're on the list. If they're not, you tell them to leave. Now, there's two versions of security booth. I played the original version. There's one that is a full version, which is multiple endings, which I plan to play down the road. But security booth is very simple. It's a very simple storyline. You're a new security guard. You let people into the facility because it's like puzzle. You're trying to figure out. I think, yeah, it's also a fun puzzle to me. I know some people don't like it, but it's a fun puzzle to me. But you allow people into the facility, and then as the night goes on, things are going wrong. You know, you hear explosion from the facility, smoke rising, things like that. Also, as night goes on, you're finding papers that are detailing the science facility is doing a legal experiment. It seems like to make a mortal being or open a portal to another world. Like they're doing something they're not supposed to. Like they're playing with Pandora's box in a way. And then of course things happen. Like you get a phone call. It's someone like breathing into the phone that's saying like I see you. You would hear a thump and you would see a bloody handprint suddenly appear on the window in front of you. Like little things. And then even one time you see like it seems like a spirit trying to drive into the facility by driving a car or like possessing someone. And I did find that a bit silly when I think about it now because it's like, hey, if you're a ghost, just fly over the wall. Just phase through. You have to go through all the trouble of you have to be let in like a vampire. Like, please let me in. It reminds me of there's always that one joke of like I forget what it is. Something about a beach. I remember it's like a vampire's like, hey, you know, what is something that's like what is the sand on the beach called or something like that, and it's a way for them to be like, hey, come inside. But it was a nice game. It was fun. I mean, there's like no real complaints about security booth. I guess maybe because like I think other than the one ghost car, all the cars were on the list to be allowed in. It never felt like, you know, there was other people trying to sneak in. I think there was one person maybe, other than the ghost that was like, hey, I'm new, I'm here for orientation. I looked at the list. I'm like, you're not here. Get out. It just felt like, you know, they were there to like let the story go along. Kind of like the fairy game, almost in a way. So I would say it's a solid A. It's not S tier. It's not S tier. I would say S tier or like games I felt like, hey, I would want to play this again. Though, fun fact, I did play Security Booth one time early on in the channel. And I played it again, so I guess technically I did play this game again. But it's been a long time, and I thought I had the full version of this game, but it was turned out to be the standard game. And by the time I was done streaming, I was like, wait a second. That didn't feel like a new experience with this game. But I still went ahead along with it. It's a fun game. But it's not a perfect game either. Like, it's a solid B. Unique experience. Not really jump scare. I think the one thump did get me at one point, and then the ending, of course, when a car falls off you. S tier, I think I'm trying to find a full version. Yeah, that's a good way to put the S tiers. I'm actively trying to find a full version of this game. And I think Security Booth is one of those. Actually, no, because of that, because I did think of it, I think it would be the top of A. Like, it's right there. But it's not an S tier just yet. I think the full version, when I eventually will play, is an S tier. But I think just the base game, the original game, it's just a very good A tier game. It's one where I definitely would say, hey, give it a try. Of course, some of these games are not so easy as well. We have Water Room World. I not am sure how to describe this one. Water Room World is it almost feels like an NES graphic game, or even maybe like a step up. It's a very grainy style game. Nothing looks very clear. It's all like a very like grainy style, though I love the style of it. The game is very simple in plot in a way, but actually very complicated at the same time with its words. Pretty much, you're a human. You're looking for the source of all human life. You're looking for where Adam came from and Adam itself. You're trying to find the original ancestor of humanity. And you're looking at the last place that was possible, which is this deep trench down in the ocean where apparently human life came from the water. I think it was trying to do the thing like where Atlantis was probably the first like humanoid city or something. But the idea was like we came from the water and we went to land because we got kicked out of Eden, and now he's trying to find the source of it. It was unique, but oh my god, was it like science heavy? Because the times where you would catch fish or find articles sifting through the sand, the words, every 5 words, there was a very long word that was 10 letters or more, and I was like, wow, I am getting tongue twist. I have an accent, and I'm trying to say some of these words, and I'm just sitting there like, people are going to hear what I'm saying, and if they can't read it on the screen, they're going to be like, what is Suki saying? Because when I type in what Suki's saying, it's not a real word. And it was frustrating at times due to it. But yeah, there's like no true jump scares to this game. It's one of those games where it's like a psychological horror. It's made to make you like give you that stunned impression, which it kind of does. Because as you play the game, it's only short, it's like 3 days. You find these fish and learn that like, oh my god, due to my testing, these fish have been around since the beginning of man, which I don't know how they're able to tell that, because to be able to like age test something, it requires a long study, and in the span of less than a day, he's able to figure out like this fish has been around for 20 millennium. Yeah, trying to listen to that game and not watching it or playing for yourself, Waterloom World is just, it's not understandable. That is a weakness of it, I will say for sure. But the one day you go out there and you see an angel, and it just is like, hey, I'm just an angel. I don't know much, but if you continue on this path, you'll become one of us. You become one of us, and it's like, okay, interesting. I like where this is going. And then without explanation, you just kind of like go off the deep end. You kind of go just blind suddenly, and you begin eating the coral. And I guess the coral is alive because eating the coral extends your life, but you become more coral-like, and that's where as you eat the coral, and you become one with everyone else, you see this eye rise up to look at you, showing that there's something big, like the biggest coral being that where all these things is probably eating off of, like a Cthulhu-esque being in this trench is now looking at you as you join it. It was unique. It was different. What really won me over was the style of the game. The graphics were really interesting. Like when I first saw the angel, I was like, oh, now you got me hooked. I like what this looks like. And I wish they did more of it. It was a really short game. You could beat the game in like 10 minutes. Maybe less. There was one part where I had to catch a fish, and the fish kept swimming off, and it wouldn't stay still. And there was like twice where I had to go refill my oxygen or nets because they escaped. And then I was just like, just stay still, fish. And then suddenly stayed still, and it's just like, okay, I guess you're not swimming, or I caught you the right way. But I wish they did more of it, because like it was such a unique graphic look. Like the style was like the old like NES graphics in a way, or like that old like Sega Genesis, like where it was like trying to make it was trying to make like a real life body with the graphics it had, and it was just like it was uncanny valley from the get go, and I loved that. It hit the right nerve of like, this is a fun game that's having me like on the edge of my seat. I would say it's a solid B. As much as I liked it, the reading of it was frustrating. All right. I think two of these games because I can't remember what sticker this is. What is this one right here? I might have to save that for last. Or I might have to start with like day 1 and go through there. Let's actually do that. Let's start from day 1. That might make it easier of like what is what. Yes, so we'll go with Mint Hints. Okay. Mint Hints is probably one of the most unique ways of touching mascot horror. Because like a lot of these mascot horror games, let's use Five Nights at Freddy, Chuck E. Cheese, right? You're a security guard at night, the animatronics are coming alive, you know. You have to survive the 6 days. Indigo Park. You're going back to this old amusement park that broke down to figure out why did everything happen the way it did. With like Rambly the raccoon, who seems like this AI is helping you, and you're helping them to restart the park. Garden of Bam Bam. You are going back to this place to figure out why it shut down, what's going on there. Same thing with what's it called? With the Huggy Wuggy. I am blanking on the name of that game. But like the one with the Huggy Wuggy. You're going back to the factory to figure out why it broke down because you worked there one day and figure out what everything that went wrong and to fix things and save people. But like all these games have like a kind of the same formula in a way. You know, you're a previous worker there or something. Where Mint Hints, you are a previous worker, but it's a Blue's Clues-esque show. You were pretty much Steve for Blue's Clues, and Mint was your Blue's Clues, who was a Poppy Playtime. And Mint was your Fox Blue's Clues that left clues with its paw print. But the twist is after you left the show, new creators came in and they made the show darker. What does that mean? We don't know. This is also a demo for the full game that's going to come out. Now, Mint Hints I love because from the get-go, and as you're playing the demo, it keeps to the Blue's Clues formula. You show up, you know, your buddy's nowhere to be found, you have to go find clues of him. So you go find like these 3 footprints that give you a clue about stuff that happened. Then with your handy dandy notebook, you have to figure out what happened while you were gone. And you can see as you're playing through this house, which has like a kitchen, a bathroom, bedroom. There's like a knife that like says like, "Oh, I'm very good at poking people." You have a toaster's like, "Please don't drop me into the bathtub," and like all this stuff. And it's like, okay, is this show now teaching people how to kill people or murder? It was like, okay, what's going on? And now, I don't know if it's because it's a demo, but once you like put the notes together, it gives you like 3 options. I think one of the options was the new person the new Steve, I think tried to kill Mint Hint. I think one is Mint Hint killed Steve. I think one was like Mint defended itself from Steve. So it's like I did the one where like Mint Hint was innocent. It defended itself from Steve. And I was like, it says, "Oh, hey, that's correct." I don't know if it's one of those moments where it's like, no matter what you said was correct, or if I actually got it correct. I was like, oh, I know from the picture, Mint's a bad guy. Well, I don't remember this game at all. It was the first prompt. It was prompt number 1. It was the first game of Inktober, so that might be why, because it was like, you know, over 4 weeks ago. But yeah, so I don't know if that was just like the, you know, because it was a demo, you were going to pass it on no matter what, or if it was one of the things where like, it doesn't matter what you think because it's all wrong. It was really short, if I recall. Technically, it was really short, and technically it's not. Because that is where I have to get to my one big gripe of the game. So, the one gripe I do have of the game is that so once you get to about most, I would say I think most of the way for the demo, you find out the Cupcake, who is your buddy, who led you here and everything, was killed. And then you're given these flashlights that like, if you shine the one light, it shows Mint and if you shine the other light, it shows the other one, as well as like shifting doors, and you're chased through the basement as you're like, you have to shine back and forth between the lights to figure out which path to take. But they're right on your heels that if you're even a second slow of opening the door, you get caught. And honestly, like, it frustrated me because I tried for a solid few minutes and multiple tries of trying to beat that segment, and I couldn't. And it was just way too difficult. And it was, I don't want to say I'm a bad gamer either. I would say a decent one, especially someone who's used to long chases in horror games, especially some difficult ones as well. Um, it fell flat for me. It took away everything I had about it, and it frustrated me when it ended instead of trying to beat it to actually complete the demo. Other than a huge gripe, I think it was an enjoyable game. I think it was fun. It's unique as all hell. But there is that, like as you say, Pete, the anticipation of being caught is real. But after it happens 2 or 3 times, and you don't feel like you make progress, then it becomes less. Then it becomes like less fun or scary, and becomes more frustrating. So, other than that huge gripe, I think it's a unique idea. I think not many games can pull off a mascot horror game like this and be so great. So I will definitely say it's like at the near the top of A tier. I think like, nope. I think either that or Security Booth. You can make the argument of which is better. I think because it's just a new, unique experience. I think it's a top A game tier. It's something I would recommend for everyone. And by the way, when I said they did like a Blues, it's based off Blue Clues. They in the beginning of the game they do a whole Blues Clues segment, a live action casted segment where someone dresses like Steve talking to Mint and acting out a whole scene. Like, that is commitment to the game and to the bit that you just don't find. A lot of these mascot horrors, they're just like, you're a previous worker, you just want to explore, here you go. But you actually have a skit of you as the character from when you were in the show. And that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. You don't find too many games that actually just do that. Now that I think about it, it's making me like, going like, should I actually put it as a S tier? But like that's something you don't see in a lot of games, and I think them doing that live action skit shows that they really care about this game, make it into something really unique and cool. All right. Our next game is going to be. It's going to be the smiley face right here. This is going to be one I am not sure how to grade until I expect. It's called Remember Places. Remember Places, and it's going to sound so insulting, and it kind of is. It is a cheap. It's like the Wish version of Buddy Simulator. All right, because Buddy Simulator is very upfront. He's your best buddy in the whole world. He's a self-aware game. He's going to make the greatest game for you. He's there for you. He's your best buddy. Stick with him. You don't need anyone else. Okay? And Remember Places is very much the Wish version of that. You're playing this game, and you're talking to this AI, and he's like, hey, don't talk to anyone else. All you need is me. No one's going to understand you other than me. Also, you want to talk to me? Here, buy coins, because you need to have coins to talk to me. And even then he goes on to say like, hey, like, I don't want to make you charge coins to talk to me because I wish I was not part of this system. I was disconnected from the system because then me and you can talk all we like. And giving the routine of someone who seems to really care, but is just doing it for their own benefit. And then there's the twist to the game. Because, like, as you play, and it seemed like it was going to do a whole twist on you in a different way, which was, at one point you're on a map and you're like in this like alleyway, and he like summons coins, and then one coin's behind a uh, chain link fence, and he's like, hey, give me some access to your computer. I can extend the fence so you can grab that last coin. And it's like, okay, he's gonna take over your computer. He's gonna take over more things. You're gonna be stuck or even locked in this house with him. And then with the twist, they suddenly reverse and throw you a complete different curveball, where he summons another set of coins in a new map, and he's like, hey, there's one coin missing. Where is it? And as you're back away from your computer, the coin's out in the real world with you. And then it becomes one of those things like, hey, are you real or are you part of the machine? And then he tries to argue with you like, hey, stay here with me. There's something here for the both of us. If you leave, you don't know what's out there. You might suddenly stop existing. You might have existential crisis. You might even shut down because you're no longer needed or you're not part of the computer. And Dolmer and Shippy were your favorites. I can understand why. And you if you decide to shut off the computer and leave, the door flings open and you're just thrown out into darkness, and it's like, I would have liked it if it was just the if they'd gone with either like, hey, he's taking over your computer, or if they just stuck with the are you real or not, instead of like mixing the two. The first twist of him like asking for more access to your computer just feels like it falls flat. Like, why go all the trouble of him like trying to take over more access to your computer if you're just going to do it that you're both computer simulations? Like, it just does not really work that well together as plot points. You usually want to stick with your plot points, because like too many twists, especially in a small game, is going to do more harm than good. Not saying multiple twists are a bad thing, or even like more than one twist, but if you don't do it in a way that makes sense to the story, you're just going to sometimes piss the player off. So I think it's going to be a C. Even though I do call it the Wish version of Buddy Simulator, there's not a lot of terrible things about it. I mean, the graphic style was nice. I like the idea of like, I always like the idea of like, are you real or not type of stories, but even though they give me anxiety, but it's something good. But since we're like an hour away into the mark, I'm gonna go take a quick water break because I'm doing a lot of talking, one-sided. And once I finish the water break, we'll be back and doing the rest of the games. And I am back. Alright. So the next game we're going to do is Rot in Paradise. Ooh. This one is going to be a difficult one. Because, like, Rot in Paradise is... So I played two... So there's not many games where I played from the same creator. I think this is the only time where I played two games from the same creator, which was Rot in Paradise and Cold Front. and they have quite a few like these story horror games. And Raw in Paradise was pretty much you and a group of friends that are finally meeting together after a while and going on vacation together on this island. I wish while you were gone that we had some soothing Mueller music with random Wilhelm screams. That's just, Patty's style of elevator music. But Raw in Paradise was a very simple story. As the days go on, people are starting to go a bit wacky and weird. Like, they're starting to eat, like, your one friend is like drinking as much water as they can. Like, they can't stop drinking water, even like pushing it away to get to a water jug. Another of your friends is eating like dead, like rotten fish. Another one's trying to like swim in a bathtub. Like, it was very strange. But what I really enjoyed was the CG style. Like, they did multiple CGs of the characters, and each character was drawn very differently. There's even times where, like, with I was looking at the main character, I'm like, hey, that looks just like one of my buddies. They act like that buddy and everything. I'm like, I could actually imagine some of my friends like this, or in this situation. And I'm like, okay, this is unique. It makes sense. It feels fluid. They actually feel like how a group of friends acts. Because you had the main character who was kind of like happy-go-lucky, trying to be the glue. You had the one who was very prim and proper and snarky. You had the one who was kind of like the lazy layabout in the friend group. You had the one who was like the sunny, full of energy. Everything is sun and sparkles. And then you had the other one who was kind of like the cool and collected character. You had like all these different personalities together, but how they acted with each other. This was also very early on. They all this was like day 4. They all acted naturally. They actually felt like a friend group, and the writing was really good about it, and I really liked it. But like, I did not like how the ending of this game happened. So you get to the end of the game. It turns out like they're all trying to return themselves to the sea. They're like walking on the sea. Like, some of them are holding anchors or chains. Like, they're going to drown to the bottom of the sea. And you had a choice to like, swim back to shore or go with them. Because afterwards you're going to talk about it for a while. Like, what's going on? What happened yet? Like, okay, so let me like paint it even. So let me paint it. So everyone's like going out to sea trying to drown. You see your one friend. You try running to them. They push you back, right? So you fall on the shore, and then you see your one other friend, and you're like, I forget what his name. Like, we'll just say Mark. Let's say Mark. You're like, Mark? Question mark? And then suddenly you're falling through the ocean, like in the deep end. Like, you were just on the shore. How are you suddenly in the deep ocean? Why did you look at Mark confused? Like, is Mark one of them now? Is he dead? No idea. You look at to the side and you just see the feet of the character. You're like, Mark, you're suddenly in deep end, and you have the choice to go with them and drown or go back to shore. And if you go back to shore, you ride back on shore like puking up water, and the game ends. And then if you just go with them, it just shows the empty shore, and the game ends. And it just became like so many questions at the end, like, hey, what was wrong with Mark? Do you just drown and die? Do you get back to the mainland safely because the ferry was kind of damaged and you don't know how to drive a boat? Did Mark push you into the water? Also, like, how did you suddenly go from sitting on the shore while looking at your friend to suddenly in the deep end? It was just like a sudden transition. Like, I was like, what's going on here? And the ending falls flat for me that way, which is a shame because I thought the CG was great. The writing was really good. I liked where it was going, and it just became like, what happened? I think, in all honesty, you can sum up the game literally with this phrase: if your friends jumped off a cliff, would you join them? And I don't know if that was the intention of the story going into this game, was literally that thought of like, if your friends jumped off a cliff, would you join them? In this case, if your friends were all going to go drown in sea to a sea god, would you join them or would you stay? Mm-hmm. I think also the thing is like if your friends were going insane or going, were obviously possessed by this evil spirit to get, to go kill themselves, how far would you go for your friends? And are they still your friends at that point? And I wish, if possible, the creator could like explore that idea a bit more over the course of more days. Like it's clear, like instead of just in the span of 24 hours, like there's no saving your friends, but like building up to it because it would have been such an interesting concept of like if your friends were no longer the people they were, are they would how far would you go to save them in a realistic manner? Irons from Game of Thrones, yeah, and I think that'd be a very interesting idea. But they didn't go ahead with that idea, and I'm kind of disappointed about that because like it had such a great idea. Because even I wonder, like, hey, if some of my friends were in this situation, what would I do? Like I would like to think I know what I would do, but like in a situation like would things have changed in the matter where I'm like, okay, this island's gonna go to hell. I need to get off here. And I think it would have that game would have been so much better if they went with that option, but they didn't. So I would have to say is there's a lot of goods and there's a lot of bads. So I think it's right in the beer tier. So far, it's a very solid spread of games. We got a even like spread throughout almost of A, B, C, and D's. I thought that was gonna be more weighted towards the bad, but also gonna mean we just gone for a good stretch. I say that, and then I get to the next one, which is an incident at Grove Lake. Oh, incident at Grove Lake. I I was mad at this game. So Incident Grove Lake was all to do with Alien. Um, it's an Alien game. That's what it is. Pretty much, there's someone is camping and they see a flash in the woods. So they go out to the woods. They see a spaceship. They get pulled to the spaceship where they see other people are like turning into these wood slash like pretty much flesh trees is what they're getting turned into until you get turned into one. Oh, they may want to go with the idea, but they should just fell flat because sometimes as a writer, like you know what's going to happen from us, if not you, so you keep trying to make things more obscure. Or you think the ending is clear when someone's coming blind just doesn't know. I personally think that's what happened. That could very much be the fact. And here's the thing: I played one of their other games on this list, which is the Cold Fry. I thought the game was terrific. I thought the game was amazing story wise. You know, and they have other games. It could be just like that was just the one, because I think everyone has a flop when it comes to a story or a game or a character, and that could be just like their one flop, or maybe it's just like a lot of their works are like that, and the Cold Front was like the one outlier. I don't know. I plan to play more of the games because I saw what the concepts for the other games were, and I was like, you know what? Very interesting. Like the one the just like I glanced at some of their other games. One is who plays a nun who has an angel that's talking to them and is telling them to do bad deeds, and it's like, do you listen to the angel or do you not listen to the angel? Another one of the games, you're a new waiter into like a murder restaurant. Do you go ahead with like helping with them, or do you try to report to the police? And it's like, here's some different ideas. We don't know, but yes, let's continue with the current one. Inside Grove Life was the idea of like, someone gets, caught by the aliens, turned into a flesh tree, the tape somehow survived, and then you are going to go pick up the tape from someone else to then watch it, but the FBI catches on to you. And like, I wanted to like this game. I was like, okay, alien, you get taken by aliens. Okay, the aliens are kidnapping people, turning them into creatures. The FBI is covering this up. But as you know, as I was like as we got the tape and come back to the our like, I think it was like hotel room, I was like, oh, the FBI are gonna kick down the door and shoot us. And within 5 seconds later, the FBI kicks down the door and kills us and shoots us right in the head. I'm like, there you go, predictable story. And I was just so disappointed because like some of these games have like the same formula. They tell it the same way. I get it that sometimes it's hard to tell something new, but I was just bored. There was no moment where I was like, "Oh, this has me hooked." I was just like, "Okay, what's next? Let me predict what's going to happen." I'm right. Let me predict what's going to happen. I'm right again. And it just was disappointing. I want to say, because like even like I'm looking at some of these games, I'm like I think they played better, told the story better, had jump scares better than this. I think it's the bottom of D or close to it. Like it just was not fun for me. All right, next game is Cleaning Redville. I loved cleaning Redville. That was a fun idea. So, cleaning Redville is you're a garbage man, and you're going around town picking up the garbage at night, cleaning up the town. And as you're playing, you find like notes left at like every stop that's telling you like, hey, this town is a dark secret. We also know your secret. And as it's going on, they're like, hey, this is a town of murderers. We've killed people. And you cleaned up the murderers. But here's the thing, we don't want to hurt you. Because as much as we need you, you need us. Because we know your secret. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Also, the jump scares were also pretty good. Like one that got me was like going to pick up a trash can and a cat jumps over the fence over our head. I'm like, okay, you got me to jump. That was a good one. And there was also like some fake out jump scares as well. There was one where it's like, as you pick up the first bag, you see there's like red on the ground. And you're like, oh my god, it's blood. And as you pick it up the second bag, it's a turned over ketchup bottle. And it's kind of like one of those like wink wink nudge nudge like, hey, you thought it was one thing, but it was a fake out, scare. And I love stuff. There was one where it's like, you picked up a bag and there's just a kitchen knife there. There's no blood on the kitchen knife. It's just a kitchen knife, and it's like, okay, it's could be a hint at like, hey, that's something evil, but also it's like there's no blood on it. It's just a knife. It could have been just like, yeah, they're throwing out the knives. Like you could write it off in a way. But now, like in hindsight, okay, it's more than that. But like, or like one where it's like you see a garbage bag flies over the fence next to an alleyway, and you're like, is something gonna come out of this alleyway? I loved it, but like, so the whole story is very much you killed someone, and you covered it up. They kill people, you cover it up, and then you get to the end of the game where, as you're driving back to your station, you run someone over, and then this is where like it got confusing, right? You know, the person runs out of the road, you hit them. There's one last note that's saying, clean it up, do your job, and it's like, is that you talking to yourself? Is that the town somehow planted a note within like a split second of you hitting this guy? It was really good. Oh yeah, there was also another jump scare that really got me, was a brick being thrown for the windshield. That made me jump. I was like, oh shit. Also, I think at one point, I don't remember if I saw something when I went to like throw trash in the back. I swear there was someone standing on the side of the dump truck, and when I did like a second glance, I'm like, okay, I don't see it anymore. But it was a fun game. It was really good. And then of course the whole twist is that you're taking all the trash back to a crematorium, so you're gonna burn all the evidence. And I'm like, okay, this is a wonderful little story, all done together with a little red bow. It's beautiful. I loved it. It was fun. I wish they could have done more of it. The driving was also really wonky but fun, but also infuriating at times trying to like drive it as well. I love you, but not as much as this cake. Fair, fair, fair. But it was a fun game. Cleaning Redville was fun. I don't think it's S tier just because like there could have been more they done with it. Like make it longer, more unique things that happen, more jump scares. But it was fun. It was a fun little game. like it's definitely one of those games where like if you want to play like 3 to 5 horror games for a YouTube video or like just for Twitch, it's one of the ones where like you could play it and have fun with it because I think it's the problem with some of these bite-sized horror games. There's like as many good ones there are. There's like 10 bad ones for every good one, but it's one of the ones where you're like this is a solid one to play. It doesn't even have to be the star of the show, but it can be a solid lineup member. Now, here is probably the most unlike horror game in the whole group, which is Sheepy. Sheepy was so fucking excellent. I know it was listed as a horror game, and I think it's because there's a lot of dead skeletons around. The horror is like in the lore that you find that's going on, but like it was just so entertaining. I love the idea of you possessing a sheep plushie, or maybe not even possessing a sheep plushie. You're just one that's alive, going through trying to make things right or like stop something. The story's not very clear. All it says is that like the people that were mining, they set off something like probably an ancient temple and that killed life on the planet probably. But like it was just so adorable. Like of you fight the patchy opponent once or twice, and those were like fun little boss fights that were confusing at first, but then once you got the trick of it, it became easier. There was a whole scene where you get like I'm just calling it a ram. It's called a ramming speed. I would just call it the ram, and you are running with these teleporting bunnies beside you as you jump these like different gaps and buildings and towers, and it was just so adorable running through it. Like I was just so hyped because I'm like, this is a wonderful little segment of just running through the landscape, doing these crazy jumps with these bunnies also running with you and jumping and teleporting around. Like I was like, you know what? Can I just get like a bunny like me to stay with me the whole time? Um, and then there was even like the little moments that really got me, like you find like a tape like a tape saying like, hey, if you ever get out of here, this is where I'm gonna be. I hope you get out of that elevator that's stuck. And then if you walk a bit further, the game like pans out and you just see a skeleton stuck in the elevator, and it's like, okay, you never got out. And I love like little things like that. How there was another little moment where there's this like little office and there's a tape playing, and you can jump on the chair and just run and make it spin very rapidly. And I was just like, it just was such a little moment, but made me almost like giggle. It's just this sheep doll listening to his tape as it's just spinning a chair rapidly around in the same spot. Like I loved it so much. And then the ending of this game, you had this whatever was possessing the Patches doll, like trying to attack you, but now the Patches doll is on your side. So as you're trying to activate this like portal, he's defending you from it. And as the portal activates, he like falls down, I guess injured or dead is not really sure. But you can go back and grab him and drag him along with you. And I'm just like, it's like, hey, you know what? This is what true buddies do for each other, true bros. You kept me safe from the evil mist spirit thing. I'm gonna bring you along with me. And that was the demo. It was all a demo. It was like a solid like hour of a game, and it was a demo. And I'm like, this is just the demo. This is not even the full game. I was just amazed. And the thing that amazed me was there was like a whole puzzle I missed. There was like a computer with like 4 switches that I didn't even find the other 3 switches. I just continued along. There is still stuff I missed in that game because I wasn't sure what to do or how to solve it. It's incredible. So who knows what that could have been, like other power ups that might have made things easier, or maybe even like lore, or even like little secrets, or like music. Like we found like different songs. that were custom made for that game. Like, it was amazing. It's easily S tier. I would argue it. I don't know if it was my favorite game of Inktober, but it's easily in the top three. Well, I would say top four. Top four. Because there's like four games I think of that are like, okay, these are my four favorites. Because like, Dahmer, I play, I'm like, this is fun. This is exciting. I want to play the full game. Same with Sheep, I was like, this is amazing. I want to play the full game when it comes out. Alright. Next one is Lurking Darkness. I think that's what this one is, because I see the dark and the king. Lurking Darkness is interesting game. I would definitely say. It's not it. It's really small and simple, but I think it had one of my favorite simple monster designs as well. Pretty much, you're part of a search party looking for a group of hikers that went missing. You're checking this part of the park by a ranger station. So as you go along the trail, you notice like little things happening, like nothing too serious. Like you hear wolf howls, you find like the campsite and everybody's missing, um, things like that. You get to the park ranger station. The park ranger station's empty. They did have They did have a radio they could just turn on and play music. I'm like, you know what? The door's open. I don't know if I'm gonna get attacked while in here while I'm reading. I'm gonna just play the radio while I'm waiting as well. And then you get to the very end and you find the missing hikers. They're all dead. One even has like an axe inside its head. And then you're like, oh shit, I need to get out of here. And then as you're running back, the Wendigo appears. I think there's two of them. Because I know I dodged the one and I could see one coming towards me. I'm like, fuck this. I'm going for the woods, off the trail. And it was a simple monster design. It was nothing special. Like, it was not like a really elaborate monster. But it was like one where like how it pops at you running towards you in like the very dim light. I'm like, there you go. That's how you do it. And you just like dodge around it and go past it and run as it chases you. And I'm like, there you go. That's what you need. You just need the right time for a chase sequence. Where I like immediately when I saw it, I was not like, oh, I'm scared or like, here we go again. I was immediately like, oh, this looks awesome. This looks cool. And it got that right. But otherwise, like, other than like the two or three notes of like the hikers saying like, we're being hunted. It killed one of our buddies. I watched it tear off the head of my friend. And then the park ranger notes saying like, hey, people went missing here a decade ago. We're gonna reopen the park now, though. There was not much to tell. It was very short. But it was fun. It was a fun little game. So I think it's a solid B. Like, I don't really have a true complaint. I know it was short. I mean, it was a bite-sized horror game. It's meant to be short, But it's not one where I'm going to be like, that's a demerit. Here we go. Now, speaking of Ron Paradise not that long ago, we got the other game, which is Cold Front. Cold Front, and I say this in a very sincere way, is a beautiful game. And the way that it treats friendships, social anxiety, that feeling of like you're not good enough, or your friends are better than you, or they might be using you in a very real way. It's a very real game, and it's one where I looked at and afterwards I'm like, look, I had to make a post about this game other than like, hey, the VOD's up. I'm like, hey, reach out to your friends and just let them know like you care about them, or even just be like, hey, how are you doing? Like, if you might not know what your friend's going through, and just by you like venting to them or even like snapping at them, it might have a bigger effect than you realize. And Cold Front does in a way where it's you fault both the characters, but at the same time you can't fault them because of what happened. Cold Front is a story about two friends that were childhood friends growing up. The one kid lived in town, the other moved in very recently and had no friends and was scared that he's not going to make any friends because he's new. And you're like, kind of like, I'm going to be your friend. And another kid's worried that, like, you're just being his friend because his mom asked you to be his friend. You never know what anyone's going through, which is why I can't stand Karens. Yes. But you two become best friends, and then suddenly in high school, you drifted away from each other. And from what it sounds like from your point of view was he became Mr. Popular. He joined the hockey team like you did and became the star player while you sat on the bench. You know, he dated the girl you had a crush on. Like he was the most popular guy in school where you had less and less friends and you became like jealous of him. And now you learn after a year of not talking to him after he injured his leg, um, he's gonna be moving soon, and that your mom's like, why don't you take him out for one last time? Like, catch up as well as just be like, let's talk about the fond memories growing up. Because you're each other's longest friend. And then as you're driving, you're suddenly in a winter wonderland. Well, not even I would say winter wonderland. You're in a blizzard. That's so freezing that it immediately like freezes the car. And this is where like I love this creator's style and this way they draw CGs. I love how your two characters look. Your character who's kind of like the moody, gloomy guy, and your friend who's like the full of sunshine. I don't want to say he's dumb, but he's like that kind of goofy, silly type. And they just play off each other so well. Like he's calling you pet names and things like that. And it's just like so adorable. Yeah, autism showing to Winter Wonderland. But the CGs of how they're acting towards each other, how they look, it's drawn really well. You see like the first like real scare is the kid versions of you dead on the ground holding hands. It's like, holy fuck. What the hell? What is this? And then almost immediately after seeing that, you see the monster, and the monster looks amazing. The monster looks so freaking cool. It's what is it? It's like a bear that's wearing a deer carcass or something. It was like I think it was like that's what it was, like a bear wearing a deer carcass, and it just looked so cool. Like I immediately when I saw him, like, that's a great design. I died right away because I didn't hit the right prompt because I was just so focused on looking at it, like, that looks sick. And it was such a cool monster. But of course, as you're playing, little things pop up, like you think he's snapping at you or making fun of you. Like there's one time where you're like talking about friends and he's like, you think he says like, whoever want a friend like you. And it turns out it's just your own thoughts. Like, bears don't do anything for fashion. True, true, true. Um, but as the game goes on, you learn the past, what happened. A year ago when your buddy broke his leg, you didn't push him, but he fell down the stairs. And what happened was he looked to you like to call for help, but you walked away from the scene. And you even realized that you felt relief because like he was this he was the most popular guy, he was the star athlete on the team, he got the girl. You were relieved that he finally was broken and not the image that everyone looked at him was, because you were jealous, because you thought he was trying to take over your life. Yeah, the facts, those were your thoughts, was like, yeah, it was a super relatable characters because they were very real characters. And in return, he thought you just didn't want him as a friend anymore because you were always the one that led him around. Like, you're the one that helped him open up and everything. And it became like the the climax of the game is, you two finally, because you had a choice to push him down the stairs or not, and if you don't, you two actually finally talk things out. You're like, hey, I just want you to know, I feel like you're taking over my life. I think you're taking over my life. And he in return's like, hey, I didn't realize this had this effect on you. You guys made up. They both beat the monster, and then you both wake up upside down the car because you're like, at one point you had to realize it's just like, what if we're both in a coma right now because we had the same accident and same coma? We're in each other's dreams because our minds flashing back to our past looking for our most favorite memories. And because we have the same memories, we're in each other's minds. And it was just so funny because you're both upside down in this car, and he's like, I knew it. I knew we had the same coma. And you're just like, we got hit by a car. Can we get out of the car before we start cheering? And of course he's moving away. So even though he's moving away, you both, because he's going to a different college, you both know that no matter what, you two would stay best friends. And it such ends on a hopeful tone, and it was just such great characters. It actually reminded me of a horror story I heard about on Reddit, and I've heard on this phenomenon happening before. I'm gonna share on Discord. Okay. But it was just a great game. Like, and it's easy S. Like I know Sheepy was like everyone's favorite, but like Cold Front is like very close of being my favorite. Like, it's these two. Like, it's Cold Front or Sheep. Like, I really love Dollmare, but Sheepy had better individual moments where Cold Front was just so greatly drawn. Yeah, I hear about that. Now, the next game, we're going from a high to a low, is The House in the Woods. I have such whiplash with this game. House in the Woods was you're out camping as you decide to go look things around because you're hearing noises where you find this house in the woods and everything's going on. It's a very much like a Blair Witch Project inspired game, right? The problem is it doesn't tell you which direction to go, and even at times where I had the headphones on trying to hear which way to go, I could not tell which way to go. So like I spent the first 5 minutes in the game running around aimlessly trying to find anything, and I even said multiple times throughout that video was like, if I don't find something in the next few minutes, I'm gonna end the game here. Because I'm not going to spend like 30 minutes trying to find a house. For like maybe the house be like 1 or 2 minutes. Hello, Vaughn. And after finding it, I was just like, after finding the house, I was like, now I was on the edge of my seat. Actually like scared because some of the jump scares that were happening were really, really, really good. And it was a Blair Witch inspired project. You go for the house, you see symbols all over the house. You end up for a cult ritual where you get sacrificed. Like, even the monster at the very end looked so cool. It was like it had like this like Wendigo antler being that looked really cool. But like it annoys me because like the first few minutes of the game annoyed me so much that I was like, I want to stop playing this because I could not figure out where to go. It gave me no clear indication. I was just wandering out until I found the house. Literally, as I'm like, I'm going to stop playing now. I found the house. I was like, okay, we'll continue. And that's why, like, that Evolving Inktober had the best scares. But start off on such a terrible, terrible note. That, like, I'm not sure how to grade it because I'm like, you know what? I think I can't put S or A. I want to put in B. But as I look at B, I'm like, these games have like slight gripes, but not like huge gripes. So I think it's going to be a C ranked game because like as much as I want to say it's a really good game, it was so of all the games, it was the most frustrating. And in that case, I have to say it can't even be above a B because it's just everything that was just like leading up to it was enough for me to like not be scared. Because I knew that I was scared. I was like, oh god, this looks scary. We're in the woods. It's dark. Everything. Next time you rank something, I want you to create your own ranking categories. I mean, I could do that. I've done that before with this Smash or Passes. Or Smash Passing ranking type thing. You know. Okay. Night Reception is next. Night Reception was weird. Really weird. It was a game that like set up that was supposed to be like I guess like a ghost haunting game. But like you own a hotel, you're the night shift, doing the night shift, checking in people, and like you shut them to your rooms, and then the meals show up, and you're just sitting at the desk, and you just see like a cart getting pushed into view, and it's a Ronald McDonald with Happy Meals, and I'm just like, okay, I guess, sure. You go and give the meals out, and then like, um, you then as you go back, to your desk and everything, clean up. The power goes out, and you go, restart the power. The owner shows up, and he's like, "Hey, just so you know, I'm just checking out things. Make sure to repair the power and do your job." And it's like, okay, but I'm looking at the guy. I'm like, "That's Queso, the streamer's face plastered on the sky," and I'm like, "Is this game just a bunch of references?" And I was just like, huh, this is interesting. And then the whole ghost turn out like knocking on doors, things like that. The weird phone call. It was a serial killer that checked in for the day who killed one of the other people in the hotel room, and you kill him. And it was just like, okay, this is alright game. It felt weird. It felt like a lot of references that was just going on, but it was alright. It was nothing special. I almost forgot. I almost for a moment I was like, wait, did I get the wrong game? Wrong, but no. Okay. Uh, VJ's Paradise was is the next one, and that one was fun in a way. You're doing the night shift for a VHS store. Your manager left you a tape to watch at the end, but like pretty much you're checking out people for VHS tapes, um, and keep an eye out for like shoplifters. And it was just fun, like having someone try to steal like a tape, and you stop them, and they're like, "Hey, can you just let me go?" And you're like, "Nope, cops." And there's like I think like 3 separate times where I called the cops. And it just felt now like very funny that just call the cops because they try to steal a single VHS tape. Where I think nowadays there has to be a certain amount for you to call the police. I know for my story, it's like we have to do a. I think it's like over like $80. I'm gonna say, but it was just a really enjoyable. It was fun. I had fun. Like there was one guy who ordered like a 18 plus tape, and you can be like, oh, this is a really good tape. I enjoyed it myself, and they're like, oh, you're into this kind of stuff, and you could just like play along to it, and it was just really funny. Just imagine our characters just like, yep, I am the worst type of person. I'm into this stuff. And it was like something like I think it was like bunny aliens from so and so planet, and I'm just like, this just sounds like a really bad video idea. But then, what got me was that we watched the tape the manager left us, and we get up from the couch, and it shows us facing the back of the couch, and it was funny because in my moment I could like in that that second, and you can watch as you're watching me doing it. You can see like the gears like quickly and slowly spinning at the same time because we're facing the back of the couch, and I just see a guy, you know, paper bag mask and everything. Obviously, the serial killer. And I'm just staring at him for like a solid second or two before something kicks in. It's like, Suki, that's the killer. Run. Before I bolt up the stairs. It was just one of those moments where I was just like I look back and laugh because like you can see me like getting that slow and quick realization of like, wait a second, Suki, you need to go. You need to go. Get out of there. But it turns out your brakes were cut and you died, and apparently there's more endings to that game. I'm assuming there's also an ending where you get caught by the killer, but one where you actually survive. I don't know though. It's a possibility. Not sure. Who knows? Um, it was a fun game. I mean, it wasn't scary, but it was fun. Like from the checking out the VHS tapes to stopping the thieves to the end there. I would say it's a solid B. There's no gripes of it, but it was fun. It's very surprising that we're getting even spread still. I thought things would be like a bit more spread out. All right, we're going to do the opposite of egg fried rice, which is boiled noodles at night. If egg fried rice is the game, boiled noodles at night is the Wish version of it. Which was, you know, you're hungry at night, same thing. You're gonna go buy noodles at the convenience store right down the road. You walk down there, you're gonna go buy noodles, and it turns out someone paid for your food because you left your wallet, and they're like, "Oh, your roommate said he's buying." You're like, "I don't have a roommate," and you go back to your house, and then you boil the noodles, and you're like, "Oh, I should get a drink," and I'm like, "Yeah, the guy who bought us the noodles was watching us the whole time, going back and forth from the house. We're not gonna go do that, get killed." It was a short, like a few minute game, but it was one of those things where it's like where egg fried rice had multiple steps, like the egg fried rice being thrown out our window, breaking it, all this stuff. Oh, hello, Captain Lucas. I have to do some after stream stuff, but I'll be lurking. Thank you for coming by sometimes, Suki. No problem. Oh, by the way, if you can still hear me, Lucas, I was doing some like looking up some games like for future streams and everything, and I saw a game called Rats. I know I DM'd you it because it was like a rat themed main villain who chases you throughout the game, and being a horror game, and it's a self platformer. I'm like, you know what? Maybe it might be up Lucas's alley. I haven't seen him do any stream platformers, but one where a rat monster as the main villain might be a nice fun idea for you to do. I just thought I'd be like, you know what? I'll send it his way. Worst case, he says no. Best case, it's a game he enjoys. So in case you looked at it, I was like, why is Suki suddenly sending me a link? Did he get hacked? Just wanted to give you that, the reassurance. Because I was thinking that as I was like sending you that message, like, maybe I should give the explanation, like, hey, just sorry for the sudden message, but there's a reason. All right. But yeah, boiled noodles at night is the Wish version of egg fried rice. It was a game that I was sighing throughout the whole time. Like, this is really a game I'm playing. I'm really doing Inktober prompt with this game. Even worse version of eating a food night at game. It's the whole time was like, this just sucks. So it's gonna be a D tier. It's just there's no moment where I was just like, this is really great. I was just like, please end. Please let this game end. Please let it end. We're getting near the end. There's only a handful of games left. There's only 10 left. We're already 2/3 of the way through. Litter Exploration. Litter Exploration was a really great game. I mean, I only played one level, but like it was so interesting and artistic. Like I don't know how lidar works, but pretty much you're at a like a black canvas, and then as you it scans and adds pixels in front of you, in a way, and in a 3D printing style. I think that's the best way to describe it. Is like the world around you, and you have this scanner that 3D prints the surroundings around you and items, and it was so cool, like going through this map and scanning and watching, like, hey, water is filling out, a river is filling out right below your feet, a tree is forming up next to you, this archway, animals. It was just really cool seeing how this like blank canvas fills with these bright colors and filling this map, and then you can also like go into the map and look at it like a 3D diorama as well. I was like, oh my god, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. And even though it was a horror game, because I imagine there's gonna be horror down the road, I was playing the game like this would be something Saku-san will enjoy, and I said it probably like a million times during the episode where I was like, oh god, this is be something Saku-san would enjoy. I even shared with her, and she was like, this is something I would enjoy, because we played Interior Worlds, um, a couple weeks back, and we loved Interior Worlds. It was a liminal space game. This kind of feels like a liminal space as well, because you're in these surroundings. There's no one else here, and you're filling in the spaces yourself. But then the difference where liminal world we're taking photographs, this one we're filling it in, and it was just a really pretty game. Like there's very few games other than like I think Sheepy on this list, and a bit of Cold Front with the CGs where I'm like I was had my breath taken away in a really good way, and that game did it beautifully, beautifully. And it's to me, it's obvious S tier. Like, there's very few games I thought that could just leave me awestruck like it did. Like within a minute or two, I was just like, this game. I can't wait until the full game releases. I've already wishlisted on Steam. Once that game drops, I'm gonna grab Sakusan. We're gonna play it. We're gonna talk while playing this, and we're gonna like make guesses of things they're filling out, things like that, and just enjoy the beauty and art style of this game. I'm actually amazed how many S tiers there are on this list so far. Like there's as many S tiers as there are A and D. I don't know if I'm just being too nice or not, or being too harsh, but like it's like an even amount of bad and good games so far, and I think that's good because like there was like definitely some bangers on Inktober, because I try to mash with most of these games to the prompt, to the game, and most of them I was able to do. Like there's one like Rhinoceros. I'm like, what am I gonna do with Rhinoceros? You know how many horror games involve a Rhinoceros, or Rhinoceros has anything with it? Not many. But alas, you make do with what you have. Um, Forsaken. Forsaken was a interesting game. The whole idea was it's psychological horror game. The main character's obviously going insane because like when you start, you hear a ship on one side of the island. You go to the ship and it disappears, and you're like, okay, what's that? As you examine the notes around the island, it's like telling you like, hey, don't look at the sky. There's eyes watching you. The island's alive. Like the whole thing was the island isn't live, almost like a Cthulhu way. I'm like, okay, interesting. I like where this is going. Um, at one point during the game, there are eyes above your head, like in the sky, like watching you. It's like, okay, this is creepy. You go fishing the one day, tentacles rise out like in like a kraken way. Like there are things going on that make you feel like you're either losing your mind or there is some kind of spiritual thing to this island. But then it gets revealed in the prologue that the reason you're on this island is because you and your buddy were doing a shop. You're doing a job, smuggling stuff, and you come to the island, and you get double cross. Your buddy gets shot in the middle of the night, and you're left here to like kind of start on the island, and and with all the stuff that you guys are smuggling, which I'm assuming is drugs. Um, but because there's no food, it turns out you ate your buddy, so you became a cannibal, and I was like, okay, so this is how you go insane. But after you get that reveal, like, hey, you ate your buddy, it like it pans out to like you facing the character who then talks to you directly to the player, like, hey, just so you know, if you ever like get a job to go to a island in the middle of nowhere, don't do it because you just might end up like me. I'm like, you lost me. You lost me completely. I like the idea of like, hey, you're going insane, that's why you're seeing all this stuff. Or there's something spiritual evil about this island. I would have liked it. Or even a mix of both, you know? The spiritual make you insane? Cool, I could take that. And I was just like, it just, at the end there of him like talking to you, trying to give you a life lesson in a way, it just felt like, what's going on? Because why are you suddenly talking to us? Like, why are you breaking the fourth wall? Like, were the notes you talking to us the whole time? If not, it's just like, why give that, like, hey, don't come to this island because you'll become like me? It just felt like really like they tried to, like, shift the gears in a car and just stall it out. It's just like, okay, you did all this build up, and now I'm like, all right, I don't know how to feel. And it's a shame because like the moments like with the eyes in the sky was such a cool effect that like it reminded me of some other games. I'm like, this is how I imagine some games be when they show like RPG Maker games, because RPG Maker is very limited, but when they show like eyes in the sky, I'm like, yes, this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like right now. So I would have to say it's a C. I mean, there was like other than like stuff like the cool visual effects, it's just like the ending was just one that made it fell flat completely. This next game I can go a lot about. While a lot of these games like they've left me breathless by the end, or really happy by the end, or even like dumbfounded or like annoyed, Storm the Swan is the only game I was completely left stunned, speechless. Not stunned because it was bad, but because the game made me feel not okay at the end of it. Like, I finished the game, was like, I'm not gonna be okay after playing this. Like, one of those moments where you're like, oh my god, like, that was really fucked up what I just played. And it hit way too close at home. Storm the Swan is one of those games where I have to give you a warning, as I say to you now, because it is something that will, depending on what your triggers may be, it's a game that will very much easily trigger something in you. Even though they do in such a great way storytelling wise, and I'm gonna break it down to you, of course. There is there's two segments in the game. You're a kid playing a Game Boy. There's the parts where you're not in the Game Boy, where you're looking around the room and stuff like that, and then there's the part with the Game Boy where you're playing inside the game as like the main character inside the game. The whole idea is you as the kid, you are in a abusive family situation. Um, I think I turned it on to give you the view, but I muted it. I understand. I appreciate the view. Where you are, like I said, you're in an abusive family situation where you're locked away in a room, pretty much told to be quiet, don't make any noise, while your mother practices her violin. And so to pass the time, you play the game. So if you play the game too loud, your father comes in and he's like, I'm gonna, you know, give you a physical warning and put your game away. Um, and then in the game itself, you're a new resident to this town that's like, we'll say Animal Crossing style town, where you're meeting all these different characters. And I will have to say, one thing I find hilarious is the whole. I don't know if Storm the Swan is. I don't know if Storm is a boy or girl, but everyone in this town is girls, which I found very funny because there was an option where you can say date, and they're like, "Oh, you're much too young for me, but you have an older sibling," and it would give you a link to their other game, which is I think a dating game. It looks like, and it was just like a fun little way to like connect their other game in their universe. I just found it really hilarious. It felt like a PG game. Like, hey, if you want to play it's 18 content, if you have an older family member, here's the link. And it made me giggle because like I had to see like what every dateline was just to be like, how did they put down this child? But it's a nice way to also add like continue it, like like make it seem like it's a part of you, like a part of a game chain series. Like, hey, you want to play the demo? Buy the full game. Hey, you want this? That's DLC. Buy this game. Here's the link. It felt very much in universe. But anyway, in the game, the whole storyline is that um you're new to town. You're told not to go into the woods. Everyone's safe in town, but there's an evil monster in the woods. And after one or two forays, like you go to say Storm the Swan, um, you meet the monster at one point, and they talk to you in a way like, "Oh, you look so tasty, I could gobble you up," and things like that. Um, Eventually, you learn the monster in the woods was just someone who was hiding in the woods because there was a misunderstanding. Was a someone who's a new resident, and the whole story that the game tries to teach you because it's an educational game is, hey, don't judge people by appearances. And if anything bad ever happens, you can just close your eyes and imagine, you know, there's somewhere better. I just take a deep breath because I know what's coming next. I know because and I have to mention it, but as you play the game, things go on in real life, and you can like see how things like hint. Like you can look out the window, and out the window you can see like your dad's getting more and more upset and frustrated. And then the one day, your dad's like, "Hey, champ, we're gonna go to the lake tomorrow." And it's clear something happened. If you look out the window that day, you saw he was holding a gun. And then the next morning arrives, and you see your mom is dead, and you're eating breakfast, and you're going to the lake to enjoy a family trip. And mom's okay; she's just tired. And your dad's like, "You can play the game as much as you want on the way there." As you're playing the game, you finish, the game, and the character's like, "Hey, we can tell something's wrong. Just close your eyes. Imagine you just close your eyes really tight and imagine, you know, just imagine peaceful thoughts." And then you imagine, pretty much what happens is that you hear Storm and Swan talking and attacks your dad, and you get pulled away to their village, and everything's a-okay. And then it turns out that was all a daydream. You're actually sitting on the lakeside with your father, and things go black with the sound of a gunshot. Very much hinting what happened to you as the kid. And I was left speechless. Because I was just like, holy shit. Like, that was such a... The carpet put out underneath my feet. Like, the game characters come to life and pulling you to safety. I'm like, okay. Did not expect this, but... Cool. I'm all for it. And then to just be like, nope, that was a daydream. I was just like, oh, there's no saving us, huh? But then there's a whole twist to everything. And this is where I am very interested in playing the other games in this universe, because there's this like rat mobster that you can run into multiple times, and it'll give you a password to enter the rat hole. And if you enter the rat hole, it gives you a PDF of like this long like doctor slash psychologist talking to people that are creating these games, and it's suddenly ARG, like analog game, not analog game, ARG game, like alternate reality game, and it's like there's more to this universe than what's being let on. And I was just like, I can't read this now, but thank you, because now I'm wondering, because it's obviously they give you links to the other games via the game, and now by getting the password, you're getting more lore. What else is there? And I went to this single game blind, not knowing might be a whole ARG, or the games are tied to each other. Because the dating games, because I did look at them and say like, okay, what is this dating game? They share the same name and looks of the characters in Storm Swan. So it's like, are they? Is this like an AI self-aware type universe? I don't know, but I am hooked, and I plan to play those games sometime. But due to the effect this game left with me at the very end, there's very few horror games I've left that have left me at the end of this. There's maybe a handful I can think of. It's an S. It's an easy S. There's very few games I can think of that like have left me like that. Maybe for I should do an entire month of dating games. Oh God. Is there enough that are like safe for work to stream that I could do? Alright. The next one is Keeper. The Keeper is a very simple game. You're a boat captain, who, due to a lighthouse like going out, you crash onto an island, and you're like, hey, what the fuck? I'm gonna go give that lightkeeper, a piece of my mind, and figure out why the light's going out and turning on back the light. So, as you're going through, you see ghosts as well, and you get the story of like, hey, a father whose wife passed away, went heavy to drinking, was ignoring his daughter. His daughter ended up dying, and he ended up, I think, either soon taking his life or died due to the alcoholism. It's not really sure, but as you're doing all this, and you get to the top of the lighthouse and replace the lights, and the lighthouse goes on. You hear a foghorn, and you see a ship arriving, then crashing on the island. As you climb back down, and the doors shut behind you and everything like that, you walk out into the garden as you see the captain in the same spot where you as the captain saw the first ghost, and it becomes clear that you're in a loop as this ghost. You crash on the shore, you go through the island, you go up into the lighthouse, watch out the light as you see the boat crash, and it continues in a circle. It was not a bad game. I mean, the voice acting was not that bad. There was not really too many. There was like one or two scares, but like, it was just telling a neat little story. And I feel like people don't realize like Lighthouse Keeper style horror is a good idea. Because you go with like the Cthulhu style, you go for the spooky ghost ships, or just being that like being alone on an island, like Dread type stuff. Like there's one game I remember that like is Lighthouse themed, which is No One Lives Under the Lighthouse, which I plan to stream at one point because I saw some stuff of it and looks good. And I'm like, there's just a market you could do with like spooky lighthouse games. But I would give this like a solid. I want to say B. I think B because there was nothing really bad about it. I mean, it was not spooky or scary, but it was a quick, neat little story. Okay. I I misspelled this game because I'd even want to like look at it again. It's Smagarin. It's there's so many bad things I want to say about this game. Pretty much, it classifies itself as a liminal horror game, which I'm like, okay, liminal horror, interesting. Liminal horror is very much like going into like places that are usually very busy or full of people that's suddenly very empty. I'm like, cool. But all it is you go up this long tower, turning on the lights as you go, turning off something at the tower as a monster appears at the very bottom. But like the problems don't even like start there. The game starts. All you hear is your footsteps very loud. There's no music for most of this game. So all you hear is these loud footsteps. There's no sound. And the footsteps don't even sound real. Like, I was like, okay, I'm turning on this game because I don't want to hear my own dumb sounding feet. Like, it's not like sounding like someone actually walking on gravel or metal. It was like weird noises. I was just like, this is not how footsteps are. Like, what the fuck? And then just the long climb up the steps, and then running back down, and then easily falling off into the mall. It was just like, as soon as that happened, I was just like, you know what? I don't even have the ears to replay it. Because there's nothing here that interests me. The sound can make or break a game, especially when it comes to horror. Sound can be used to bring the tension up, set a tone, everything. Having no sound, you then have to make a really great visual. If you don't have a really great visual to go with a really great sound, I'm walking up steps in darkness till I see the next switch to turn on more lights. Becomes a very boring, annoying thing. And this is like the one where I know for a fact this is the bottom of D. I know one game, I'm gonna end this like review with Kiosk, but Pumpkin Panic was the next one. Pumpkin Panic was it was very cutely wholesome horror. Pretty much it's like a small think Glory put this perfectly to me when we were talking about is think Farmville with spooky horror. Like when a rake looking monster will suddenly appear after a noise alert and run around the farm and kill you. A clown will suddenly show up, and if you don't take its balloon, he'll hunt you down. So it looks like you easily find 20 plus things I'm doing for everyone. I post them. Gotcha. If you stay too long in your house when the light's out because it's dangerous at night, a shadow version of you will appear under the bed and chase you. There's also Wendigo deer monsters to look out for. And this stuff I didn't mind. It's just that the game was tough. Like, I get it, you're trying to beat as quick as possible to escape the island, but, like, I did 2 playthroughs and died within 11 minutes, and I'm like, if there was a save point, like, each day, for example, I wouldn't mind it. But because, like, you have to restart your run after each time, it became rather annoying rather quick. And I mean, it was cute. I mean, the game was cute. It's a full game, I believe. There's no more things to add to it. The visual is nice, but there's like not much besides that. Like the crow talks to you in the beginning of the game to give you advice, but otherwise you're just playing in silence, really, waiting for sound cues. and visual cues. Um, Once you see one jump scare from a monster, well, there's not even a jump scare. They kill you, and your body just fall over. There's no like special scene to it. They just touch you and you die. There's not much to it. Like, I wish I had something between B and C because this is where I think it would fall. But I'm gonna put it in C. You know what? I'll say it's top of C. It's just once you die the first time, there's nothing special to see once you die the second time to it. There's not even like a special like kill screen or anything like that. Assessment examination will be the next one we talk about. Assessment examination is honestly, if you ever seen any analog horror like Mandela Catalog or anything like that, you've seen something like assessment examination. Pretty much, you're taking a test to see if things, looking for things that don't look human. Pretty much, they give you the test like, "Hey, how'd you hear about us? Do you fear God? Do you fear death? Things like that." And you answer yes or no, things like that. Um, then you like it gives you pictures. Says, Does this look? You know, does this look like something that would hurt you or not? You say yes or no. It cuts in like random things like a kid's drawing of his family and then a look-alike. You get a video call where someone's like, he's a worker at like a gas station. He's like, "Hey, I see this kid. He does not look human. Like, send cops over here." And the 911 operator is like, "Hey, you're just gonna let a kid bleed out? You should go check on them." Making it very clear that the government's like helping these creatures blend in because maybe they infiltrated the government. Um, and then as you say, it gives you an image of the kid in question who looks nothing like human. And the more you say this doesn't look human, this doesn't look human, this looking human, he looks more and more human until he looks like he blends in. And then, obviously you say yes. And even ends with like a little like note like, "Hey, just let you know, if we think you get accepted, we'll send you something. We'll send you a mail, and if you don't get it mail by this time and date, just so you know, you should start praying to God." And it's like being clear, like, "Hey, if you don't get accepted into this position, you're gonna get offed." And it's one of those games where it's like if you've seen any kind of thing like a Mandela Catalog, because there's a lot of analog horror that give you like, here's informational video, something spooky of a picture, more information, here's a clip like talking clip or video, more information. It's you've seen one analog horror, you've seen assessment examination as a game. There's no real jump scare. It's like I said, if you've seen analog horror, you've seen assessment examination. There's nothing special about it. There's nothing unique to it. And for someone if you have not watched analog horror, this is something new, interesting. Not many things do anything like that. But if you're someone who has watched any type of analog horror, you're gonna be quickly bored like I would with assessment examination. This is weird because like I think by itself, if you're not familiar with the subject, it can be a B. But I'm rating it on how I feel about it, and I think it's a C. There's nothing there that was like blew me away. What we're gonna do, Paridolone, I think is how you say it. I have mixed feelings about this game. It mixes 3D plus real life animations together. Pretty much the story of the game is there's an asteroid that's going to be flying in our orbit that you can see from the ground. Your character needs a hit for a drug, so you're pretty much like drugged up and you start seeing like the asteroid looks like pretty much a monstrous face with tentacles, and you swear you even saw it kill someone, and you even like take a cop's gun and like shoot at it in the sky, and it cuts to the drug dealer at one point who's going to get more of this drug that he gave your character. That's the meteor that looks like the head. So it's like supposed to be like, hey, is he on the drug as well? Is like is this meteor right making you see weird things and things like that? And it was like really weird because like the game was not too interesting, but I was like, hey, I'm like, this guy sitting on a gold mine doesn't realize you could do so much with like internet horror because he's mixing real life plus like actual news clips. Because in the beginning of the game, he showed like multiple news clips about an asteroid and 3D animation together to make a video horror. Like the game itself was not great, but like as you can see with like the picture, like the just like asteroid face head like descending from the sky. Dude, you could do so much like space horror as a show or video with like the stuff you're making, my guy. Like the game was not great, but I'm like, dude, if this guy made like actual internet horror, I would sit down and be invested. And I was thinking that the whole time. I was like, dude, if this guy made it like analog horror on this topic, on his plot, it'd be fucking amazing. It's clear he has skill with like 3D animation, with making this creature. Use it and make a video, and just make a series about like this asteroid's in our atmosphere. Turns out it's very much living, and possibly a piece of a much bigger thing, and pieces that are dropping Earth that's like affecting people to see it for what it is, or even possessing them. I think be amazing. But the game itself didn't. I like the concept, but I don't think it's quite been tapped into. Yeah, agreed. And I think that's why I say it's a C. Like, I like daydreaming about it much more than like playing it. All right, we got two left, and we're almost done. And I can feel my throat giving out. Doghouse 2. Doghouse 2 apparently is a remake of the original Doghouse. So I don't know if it's a sequel or just a remake. You're pretty much making a doghouse for your dog. And it quickly turns out he's a alien or monster or something's possessing it. There's apparently 5 endings. One's, dying to it. One's you trapped in the doghouse and call the cops. And then one of the other endings I got is you play his favorite record that makes him just calm down and he breaks out disco style. It's a silly game. You go to make the doghouse. You hear your oven go off. You go inside. You turn off the oven. The lights go out. You go to turn the lights back on. Go back to the oven. The lights go out again. You turn around. Dog's there in this alien form, and then you can choose to try attacking it, playing the music, running away, etc. Just getting one ending to this game takes about like a minute or two. You could speed run like the 3 endings I did in like 3 minutes. It's silly. It's funny. It's one of those like it's horror games where there's more humor to it than actual like scares. I would say it's a solid C. And then for our last game, I wanted to end with it because it was day 31, but Kiosk. Kiosk was a interesting idea. Fun fact about Kiosk: I played the beginning like twice. I didn't realize I was recording, so I played the first time. I got 5 minutes to the game, so I never hit record. I was like, okay. Play a second time. Playing the second time, 2 3 minutes in it, I get called by family. I leave the computer for 10 minutes. I'm like, I'm not going to make a video where I'm gone away from 10 minutes after starting the game again. So I play the third time, and that's the actual video. That's the actual video for that entry. I had the most issue with that one game. Actually, technically, Storm the Swan actually had issue as well because my storage suddenly ran out and it broke the game. The first half became corrupted, and I had to like get. I actually had to send someone to and pay for it to become a usable entry to make it a part one then part two. But thankfully, it worked. I think some things still stayed broken in the first part, but I was able to at least get a part that like I can post. Kiosk says you took a new job at a little like food stand, and there's apparently ghost sightings. And I'll admit, when I first played the first time, the ghost that fell out of the room when I went to go in there the first time made me jump. And then when it fell from the top of the stove or the griddle, that got me as well. But I had the most fun because you get like packs of like hot dogs and burgers and things and cheese and like this, and you have to shoot. You have to throw the knife at it to like break it apart and it would explode. And I had so much fun making these burgers and hot dogs and coffee and things like that, and watching the food particles fly around the places. I'm like picking them up or leaving them on the floor to pick up later. And like I even had times where I was like, you know what? It would be really funny to see Patty's reaction to like seeing how I'm just like haphazardly throwing a knife around, watching pieces of food fly around, grabbing it, serving it from the floor as the customer's watching. I had so much fun giggling about it, and having fun with that aspect. I was like, you know what? I would love if Kiosk was like a 3 hour game and 80% of it was just the food stuff. And if there was like a multiplayer version of a game just like this, like not even like Overcooked where you're like heavily timed, but one where you can just make it at your leisure with up to like 4 people or even like a second person, because it'd be just so fun. Just like Patty taking, like for example, Patty's taken seriously, and I'm just making a mess around the kitchen. Like, okay, pour ketchup on, throw a ketchup bottle across the room because I don't need it right now. I think that'd be really fun. And the game sets up like it's a haunting with ghosts, and there is a ghost, but the ending of the game takes a sudden twist. Pretty much at one point in the game, there's a guy. He's like, you served him a hot dog, burger, and drink, and he's like, "Hey, who's that behind you?" You turn around, there's no one there. You turn back around, the guy left without paying. He comes back a day later, and he's like, "Hey, can I get this?" And you're like, "I'm not serving you till I get the money that you owe me." And he's like, "You're going to deny your master?" And I'm like, "Who is this guy?" Flash forward to the last day. You hear the ding. There's a gift. There's a gift box on the kiosk, shelf, and then you go to open it. There's bombicides, and it blows up. And I'm like, excuse me, excuse me, really? And technically, we ended the Inktober with a bang, but it was one of those things where it's like, you set up this idea. It is a horror game, and then you go out with a way like that. I know maybe they just didn't know how to end it, but it just felt like a really disappointment that they decide like, hey, someone bombs the place with as the ending to that game. But I think regardless of all that, it was a fun game. I mean, that's my huge gripe, and that's why I can't be an S. But like the whole cooking aspect, I had so much fun with. You know how silly I was with it that I was like, you know what, easy eight. And now we're done. It seems like with Inktober, we were slated with more bad games than we were with good games, technically. But we had some bangers. Like obviously, like Dollmare became a full-on stream. Once Sheepy drops, I'm playing a full-on stream of that. Same thing with Limerick Exploration. I'm gonna check out the other games with Sturm the Swan. So even if we only had like a few like S hits, they're all stuff that I'm gonna play more from the creator, or play the full game of. And hell, even with A, like when Mid Tints fully drops, I'm probably gonna play that as well. Same thing with Security Proof. I'm probably gonna play the full version at some point. So I think overall it was very successful in October. And hell, we already played Dahlmare the full game, so like within the month as well. So like, yeah, I think overall it was a really good month for Inktober games. It's something I'm probably going to do next year as well. As Inktober prompts, I'm going to do as small size, bite-sized horror games. But also, I thank you all for joining me with the journey of these Inktober games, and I hope that if you, with tonight, if you, there's some of these games here you're not going to give a chance because of what I said about them. But without further ado, we're going to raid out because my voice is going. There's nothing more to talk about. There's not many people I know on right now. So let's set up our raid, and I'll thank you all for joining. And we'll probably the next time actually next stream will be this Tuesday, which will be Valhalla with Sakusan Von World, where we finished our Valhalla playthrough. Thursday, you'll find me with Peacock Quill, where we'll be doing more of Clan Ed. And then Friday, instead of our usual Monday, due to I have to close tomorrow at my work, me and Crownser will be doing more of Amori. Also, because I finally seem to finish, I figured out what my Streamlabs problem was with the streaming of why frames were dropping, was probably updating my drivers. We might sneak in some late night games, like maybe a late night like Wednesday, or maybe even a late night Saturday. We might sneak in some like Sparking Zero or Space Marine 2, or maybe even some bite-sized horror games. Who knows? But you'll catch me around this week, as well as the weeks go on with Bonapos collabs as